You must just click on OK to do the
I did,
recording.
yeah, I did.
Okay. Let me start the screen sharing. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are having the presentation by Mr. Mohamed M. Keshavjee recorded. That is for Roundtable 5. Mohammed's presentation is Gandhi, King, Mandela, Precursors of Transformative Mediation, the next stage of conflict resolution. Just something about Mr. Mohamed Keshavjee. He's got an LLB, LLM, PhD. He's Dr. Keshavjee. And is Barrister of Law, Grace in Author and Mediator. Just in brief, Dr. Keshavjee is a South African-born British-trained barrister who is an internationally recognized specialist in cross-cultural mediation. With a PhD in conflict resolution from the School of Oriental and African Studies, London University, he has also attended the Hague Academy for Public International Law and certification courses in conflict resolution at Harvard University in Cambridge, Massachusetts, the Berghoff Foundation in Berlin, and the Child Focus in Brussels. He is the author of 4 books, including one on South Africa entitled Into That Heaven of Freedom, with a foreword by Ahmed Katrada. Keshavjee is at present working on his 5th book on Islamic law. He is a visiting lecturer at the Institute of Ismaili Studies, London, United Kingdom. Doc, we are so humbled and also so honored that you will be presenting on this very, very important topic, and we are looking forward to draw on your immense wisdom and knowledge. Thank you so much. Over to you. Just tell me when you want me to change the slides, please.
Thank you, Johannes, for that very gracious introduction. Basically, I will try and fit into a 15-minute frame of what I feel the impact of these 3 icons has been on a global social movement that is now today taken over in most of the places in the world. In my short presentation, I will highlight 5 main points. What is mediation? What is it a response to? Where is mediation globally now? What is transformative mediation? And then finally, how have these 3 great international icons impacted this whole social movement? Basically and simply, mediation is a process where 2 or more conflicting parties decide not to go into litigation, but appoint a third-party, neutral, impartial mediator to facilitate a negotiation between themselves. The parties themselves come to a decision. The mediator does not decide for them. He is in control of the process, but the parties themselves are in control of the outcome. You may ask, why is it gaining such traction today? Well, the courts today are overburdened globally. Almost 93% of the cases that go to court today get settled before they come to the hearing date. Adversariality and litigation is brutal. It creates bruised relationships. Decisions normally do not become enforceable. It is a very brutalizing process. And today, mediation is applicable to a range of conflicts globally. International conflicts, child abduction cases, environmental degradation, negligence cases, accidents, divorce, family conflicts, name it. Mediation now is the politics of today, it's the politics of tomorrow. Next, please. Yanni, can you please change the slide? Yeah. It is not a silver bullet. There is a critique. American activists and academics like Fiss, Richard Abel, Trina Grillo speak about the downsides of mediation. And Richard Abel speaks about the power of informal justice, the politics of informal justice. Trina Grillo says that mediation marginalizes women, but generally, empirical studies have shown that this is not true. Mediation does have a tremendous pull and a tremendous benefit for disputants. Next, please. There are new directions in which mediation is taking today. After 50 years of practice, the profession is now looking at what should be transformative mediation, so that there's a moral difference and moral change that takes place in disputants. There's narrative mediation that is coming on the scene. There's therapeutic mediation, and styles are different. Some mediation is more directive, other is more facilitative. Also in mediation today, language is very critical. And Marshall Rosenberg is a global authority on how to provide non-violent discourse, how to defang your terminology with toxicity and bring in enablement instead. Next, please, Yanni. Now, transformative experience is a bigger thing. The authors of this whole particular phase of mediation are two Americans called Baruch Bush and Joe Folger. They are authors of the book, The Promise of Mediation, in which they highlight why do people need a transformative experience? What does conflict actually do to people that they need another experience to get out of a negative spiral in which conflict imprisons them? Next, please. Conflict creates a crisis of problems where the protagonists want to transform their destructive conflict interaction into a constructive one. They're in a destructive mode. We want to reverse that to get into a constructive mode. Why do litigants feel that way? Why do they feel they want to do that? Could you give me the next slide, please? You will see from this particular slide that on the left-hand side, you will see conflict creates a spiral where people are negative. They become destructive. They're in an alienating mode and they're in a demonizing mode. This is a normal human failing. It happens to all of us in families, in countries, in communities, in societies, in nations. But transformative mediation has two basic principles: the principle of empowerment and the principle of recognition. Empowerment is a moral internal force where you feel empowered by empowering your adversary. Recognition is the ability to stand back and to see what your adversary feels of you, to listen to him and to understand where he is coming from. So it's a form of pluralistic discourse. It doesn't mean you agree with everything he or she says, but at least you are beginning to listen from where they are coming. And that whole process of using empowerment and recognition helps to change the negative spiral that we see on the left end of this particular graph to the positive, constructive, connecting, and humanizing spiral that we see on the right-hand side. And transformative mediation is a process whereby this whole change can take place. Next, Yanni, please. Now, what is the concept behind all this? The great authors of this particular book they say thinkers in different disciplines offer different insights, all grounded on a relational concept of human nature or identity. According to this view, all human beings share a common nature, the core of which is a dual sense of both individual autonomy and social connection. In this relational view, awareness of both individual agency and social connection is the very essence of human consciousness, the core of our identity as human beings. This is what the great gurus of transformative mediation posit as a transformative aspiration. Can we have the next slide, please? And the key elements, as I said, are empowerment and recognition. The search for meaning as human beings realize their interdependence and their independence are interrelated. You are not independent without being interdependent. Your interdependence and independence are both related, and you have the capacity to reverse a negative spiral into a positive, constructive one. Next, please. So where does this new thinking come in from? We look at the whole notion of President Nelson Mandela and the whole notion of Ubuntu. And Archbishop Tutu puts it so beautifully that a person with Ubuntu is open and available, affirming of others, does not feel threatened that others are able and good, based from a proper self-assurance that comes from knowing that he or she belongs in a greater whole and is diminished when others are humiliated or diminished, when others are tortured or oppressed. So you can see the notion of Ubuntu is very much based and rooted in the notion of interdependence. Next, please. We see the same in Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy. There is a spark of divinity on every human breast. A satyagrahi tries to make the spark burn bright in the opponent's breast, making it doing it so in her own case. Satyagraha must therefore be based on truth and love. Suffering is undergone by the satyagrahi in order to make the opponent think, and is never inflicted upon the opponent. So non-cooperation and civil disobedience in various forms, with readiness to cheerfully suffer the consequences of such action as a last resort, fasting, are the only tools that a satyagrahi has and can use. So we can see the moral force in Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy. Next, please. And the same is with Martin Luther King, where he says, all I am saying is simply this, that all life is interrelated. And here Martin Luther King speaks so brilliantly about the notion of us being caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. So eloquently put together that we are interrelated. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. For some strange reason, I can never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. You can never be what you ought to be until I am what I ought to be. This is the interrelated structure of reality. The next one, please. And beautifully, when we come to conflict resolution, the whole principle is that each person is like the knots of a large fishing net. Here, Michel Lebaron, a brilliant Canadian theorist and a professor, speaks about the intricate intertwining of innumerable knots. This beautiful metaphor is from the fishing net, which the indigenous people of Canada use, where they say that everything has to be in a beautiful balance, like a fishing net, with each knot beautifully tightened to be able to make sure that the net is effective. Can we have the next one, please? Now, this notion of interrelatedness or the whole concept of relationality exists in all cultures and all traditions. Next, please. And here I do not need to go through Mahatma Gandhi's life. Professor Judith Brown this morning outlined beautifully in a keynote speech. But basically, Mahatma Gandhi's life is very well known, and Peter Maritzburg is where it all started, really. So I will not go through his whole story, but basically he was a barrister from the Inner Temple Inn in England. He went to Bombay. From Bombay, he came to South Africa. In 1914, he returned to India, and his whole mobilizational politics in ensuring that through his massive philosophy of civil disobedience and nonviolence, he was able to bring down the whole might of the British Empire in order to gain independence for India. His last few words when he died were the words, Hai Ram, O God. But he sort of espoused the principles of forgiveness. Next one, please. Now, what is critical for me as a lawyer and as a mediator and a great follower of Gandhi's philosophy, he says, he talks about what the Abdullah case in 1893 did for him. He said, my joy was boundless. I'd learned the true practice of law. I'd learned to find out the better side of human nature and to enter man's hearts. I realized that the true function of a lawyer was to unite parties riven asunder. The lesson was so indelibly burnt into me that part of my time during 20 years of my practice as a lawyer was occupied in bringing about private compromises of hundreds of cases. And here's the critical word. I lost nothing thereby, not even my money, certainly not my soul. I think those are the operative words. Certainly not my soul. The next one, please, Yanni. Now, let us look at what are the critical aspects of each of these three persons' philosophy that I feel can greatly impact the global movement of transformative mediation. And here, Yanni, am I okay for time? I think I've got another 6 minutes, am I right? Well, the main characteristics of Gandhi. How much time do I have, please?
Can you hear me, Mohamed?
Yes, I can. Yes, how much time?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, no, that's fine. You're doing well. You have another 7 or 8 minutes, yes.
Lovely, brilliant. To now really focus on the key elements of Gandhi's conflict interactions, which I feel have tremendous potential for informing this global movement of mediation from its present stylized process to a much more capacious vision, are the following. Gandhi, in his conflict interactions, showed lack of vindictiveness. He was ready to apologize. He had trust in himself and he implied trust in others. There was no expediency in his conflict relationships. There was a large-hearted generosity of heart that he showed. Too many to give anecdotes, but we do know they are there. His respect for the others, his readiness to forgive, and he did not allow these relationships to degenerate into a negative spiral. Let's now go to Mr. Mandela, please. Mr. Mandela's story in South Africa need not be retold. His history, his youth, his coming, the coming of the apartheid state, the era of protest in the 1950s, his famous Rivonia major speech, his life in Robben Island, and his movement towards bringing multi-party democracy are well known, not only in South Africa, but globally. But let's look at his particular characteristics that can inform transformative mediation. Could we have the next one, please, Yanni? I mean, his great speech at Rivonia showed what he stood for. I've cherished the ideals of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities. It is an ideal which I hope to live for and to achieve. But if needs be, it is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. Could I have the next one, please, Yanni? Now, what are his particular inclusive characteristics that inform this new global movement? Inclusivity, the whole notion of the anthem, the livery of South Africa, the sports of South Africa. Here was Mandela, who looked at contested histories in the global space, and he brought in harmony in the reflection of those symbols. His readiness to forgive, his espousing of the principle of Ubuntu, his lack of expediency, his large-hearted tolerance. He was basically a consensus builder, and he did not wallow in any self-pity. Above everything, Nelson Mandela respected the law and civil society. So here are principles which I feel as an intercultural, global, cultural specialist on mediation, that Mandela has so much to offer for this global movement which transcends all continents. Let's go to Martin Luther King now, please, the next one. King's life again, you will discuss a lot of this in the conference. Gandhi's life changed through a train ride, King's through a bus ride. These were seminal influences in their life. King speaks so eloquently of what Gandhi meant to him. He had never met Gandhi, but he realized that the principle that Jesus speaks about love could only be achieved if he followed Gandhi's philosophy. Again, King was a great champion for the care for the poor, and he was the linchpin in the whole civil rights movement in the United States. Let us see what were his particular attributes. Next slide, please. Next slide, Jan.
Mohammed, that's all I have. Up to 21. There's nothing more.
Oh my, okay. I'll use my own from here because there were, I think, 5 more.
If you open the document and if you open the document and then go on your Zoom where you see share screen.
Yeah.
Okay, have you opened the document on your?
Oh, do you want me to go?
Or have you've sent it also to me now, isn't it? Let me quickly
Yes,
check.
just see that.
Yeah. You've also sent it. Let me quickly go there.
Okay. We're okay for time, right?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let me quickly go down.
Yes, you've got another 6 slides.
Yes, we are on 21 now. So let me quickly go there.
Yeah. You've got about 5 slides more.
Yeah. Let me just, I'm just opening it. Now, as it is with these things now, it's not picking it up on my screen. Let me just close some documents. Okay, let's try again.
Yeah, I'll leave it to you. See if you can.
Oh, there it. I've got it. Okay,
Have you
that's
got
where we
the
were.
slide which says King on Gandhi, the next one?
Yes, okay. Let's go there. There you go.
Okay. I think what was very telling was Martin Luther King's views on Gandhi. He says, as I delved deeper into the philosophy of Gandhi, my skepticism concerning the power of love gradually diminished, and I came to see for the first time that the Christian doctrine of love, operating through the Gandhian method of nonviolence, is one of the most potent weapons available to an oppressed people in their struggle for freedom. So obviously, Mahatma Gandhi had a seminal influence on Martin Luther King Jr. The next one, please. What was King's main political philosophy? Non-violent civil disobedience is the primary and necessary means of effecting social and political change. The next one, please. And what were the characteristics of Martin Luther King's conflict interactions? Well, it had a massive impact on civil rights movements in America. It was referenced as a major human rights icon today. Martin Luther King inspired, in turn, excuse me, the whole Japanese nonviolent movement championed by Daisaku Ikeda and his social justice and fight for the poor. And also, King spoke of how he wanted to be remembered. His famous drum major speech is something to be learned from. Next one, please. The next slide, please.
Yeah, from this one that you sent me, this is again the last one.
No, there's 2 more.
Yeah, well, more. It's not picking up.
Okay, so I will speak. Were you able to pick it's just 3 last slides?
Oh,
Yeah, you've got the 3 last slides. Go back.
yeah.
What is conflict transformation? Yanni, I take it that you will edit this so that all these conversations are not coming in, okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Please add
Okay.
this.
So here I'm nearing the end. What is conflict transformation? It is helping people move from a spiral of negative interaction towards a more positive interaction, which is a prelude to real understanding and transformation. It is to move people from a destructive, alienating, and demonizing interaction to a constructive, connecting, and humanizing one. So it's destructive to constructive, alienating to humanizing, and one that is done through empowerment of oneself and recognition of the other. Now, I would make the point, what is there to learn as this new global movement moves? Where would we go to learn more? Obviously, people will go to the faith traditions, people will go to literature, people will go to philosophy, but these 3 individuals impacted millions of people by transforming their societies, and interestingly enough, in 3 main continents, Africa, Asia, and North America, to understand that you can move from hatred and anger to understanding and coexistence. My submission is, and I did speak to Joe Folger, who I know was a protagonist or was a lecturer in a program I'd once done in Britain or in America. And I thought that Folger and Bush need to extend their thinking onto the global arena. And they have to broaden the scope of transformative mediation beyond academia into the real conflict resolution venues in the world. I feel greater research is called for, and the role of these 3 moral icons should not only be a footnote in the page of transformative mediation, but they should be the key pillars on which societies can draw to bring about this new understanding of global conflict resolution in every field of human encounter. Thank you very much. Yanni, are you okay?
Yes, thank you so much. You know, you really touched on some of the key issues that we need to focus on, and you really put this into the framework of Gandhi, Mandela, and King. We are ever so thankful for your presentation.
No
We
problem.
shall be in touch about post-conference publications, but we will definitely play this in Roundtable 5. I will send it immediately when I get it from the cloud recording to Professor John Vaughan. Thanks, Mohammed.
No problem at all. Yanni, let me just tell you that this is the lecture I gave to 600 people at the World Nonviolence Day in 2017 in Kuala Lumpur.
Excellent.
I also gave it at the Martin Luther King Jr. Chapel because I won the 2016 Gandhi Prize. So this was my keynote speech there. And I also gave it in Indiana, in America, and I gave the speech in Britain on Global Resolution Day. This is the first time I've done it in South Africa, but I've never published it. So hopefully Peter Maritzburg will be from where the publication.
Yes, no, we will gratefully, and you can reference your previous presentations of it. We are ever so grateful. Thank you so
Yanni,
much.
you keep well, get well.
Okay.
Did you get the newspaper article from Ismaili Mail that came out 2 days ago?
Yes, thank you so much.
Good,
we will collect everything and send to everybody. Thank you.
God bless you, Yanni. You get well. My warm prayers for you, and thank you for retrieving this piece. I was worried because I got up at 6 o'clock in this morning.
Okay, excellent.
Make sure it works.